There's a certain dust-colored poetry to the way Taken 2 opens, not on the streets of Paris like the first film, but in the quiet shadow of consequences, where grief travels farther than any passport and revenge crosses borders without needing permission. The movie begins with an atmosphere thick with unspoken debts, as if the air itself remembers the sound of Brian Mills' desperate hunt to rescue his daughter. These first tones tell us something essential. This sequel is not merely returning to familiar territory, but exploring what happens when violence leaves echoes, and when a man who has already survived the unthinkable is asked to confront the aftershock of his own past heroism. It is a film built on pursuit, not of a person this time, but of moral arithmetic. Yet beneath the emotional dust of the narrative stays lies a very real industrial machine. Taken 2 was not just a thriller, it was a strategic enterprise designed to sustain and expand a global brand. Produced for approximately $45 million, approximate it represented a commercially calculated continuation of a franchise that had already shocked Hollywood with its unexpected worldwide profitability. The first Taken became a sleeper hit, redefining Liam Neeson's market identity from dramatic actor to action titan, and studios knew that momentum like this was not to be wasted. So Taken 2 arrived as both a creative gamble and a financial instrument, an attempt to convert cultural fascination into repeatable revenue. The concept of a second chapter was inherently risky. Hollywood sequels often face diminishing returns, not only financially but emotionally. Would audiences still care about a retired CIA operative using a particular set of skills to protect his family? Would the emotional logic sustain itself, or collapse under the weight of repetition? These were genuine investor concerns. And yet, the creative team understood something deeper. The first film had succeeded because it merged primal emotion, parental fear, with kinetic choreography, tight pacing, and a satisfyingly deterministic psychology. The sequel would require not reinvention but recalibration, the same emotional fuel, but ignited in a different chamber. The backdrop for this film's creation was a global industry in transition. 2012 was a moment when international box office growth was rising sharply, with European and Asian markets contributing significant percentages to blockbuster returns. Action films with simple, universal stakes, kidnapping, revenge, survival, became extremely attractive from a market analytics perspective because they transcended language and cultural nuance. Taken 2 fit perfectly into this commercial ecosystem, a high-concept thriller with recognizable characters, fast-moving sequences, minimal exposition, and intense cross-border appeal. Fox and EuropaCorp positioned the film not just as entertainment, but as a financial vehicle calibrated for global scalability. The narrative setup reflects these industrial intentions with elegant efficiency. This time, the family of the men Brian Mills killed in the first film seek revenge. They track him to Istanbul, where he is working private security, an occupational detail that quietly reveals how trauma refines a man into routine. His daughter Kim and ex-wife Lenore join him, hoping for a peaceful weekend that feels almost artificially soft, a temporary sanctuary engineered to break. The film wastes no time in tightening its emotional circuitry, reminding the audience that peace is fragile and that danger, in this franchise, is a tide that pulls rather than pushes. When Brian and Lenore are captured, the story flips the original film's architecture. Instead of the father rescuing his daughter, Kim becomes the one navigating danger, guided by Brian's calm command. It is a clever reversal, one that deepens a franchise's emotional palette while preserving its central tension. And from a production perspective, this inversion accomplishes something subtle. It expands a franchise's psychological horizon, proving that the brand can stretch beyond simple repetition and offer new angles of suspense. But what makes Taken 2 particularly interesting within the Cinema Vault framework is the way it merges emotional storytelling with the financial engineering beneath it. This was a film designed to maximize return on investment through strategic constraint. The majority of action occurs within limited geographic territories, hotel rooms, rooftops, alleyways, and the narrow contours of Istanbul's urban architecture. These locations reduce logistical costs while offering exotic visual texture. The movie's signature chase scenes, though explosive in energy, are structured around cost-efficient shooting strategies, compact stunt units, handheld cameras, and short-distance coverage that allows rapid filming without sacrificing dynamism. Production technology plays its own role in this symphony of efficiency. The film's reliance on compact digital rigs, fast-cut editing, and controlled lighting environments enabled a rapid shooting schedule, an essential factor for a mid-budget action film aiming for blockbuster-level returns. Each decision, from lens selection to fight choreography, was evaluated not only for artistic value but for its ability to compress time, reduce resource load, and still create a visually compelling product. In this way, Taken 2 exemplifies the modern Hollywood model: maximize tension per minute, optimize dollars per frame. Even the casting strategy reveals a blend of art and capital. Liam Neeson had, by 2012, become a global icon of stoic action masculinity. His presence alone guaranteed market pull. Maggie Grace brought continuity and emotional resonance, while Famke Janssen added complexity to the fractured family dynamic. These choices were not only artistic, they were data-informed decisions based on franchise recognition analytics. Studios no longer gamble blindly. Audience behavior patterns from the first film shaped casting continuity, poster design, pacing rhythm, and even international release timing. In its early minutes, Taken 2 tells audiences exactly what they came for: precision, paternal ferocity, emotional stakes grounded in realistic trauma, and a world where danger can strike from any alleyway or rooftop. Yet beneath that visceral immediacy lies a team of financiers, technicians, executives, data analysts, and creatives working in unison to deliver a product that feels effortless but is anything except accidental. The film is a case study in modern action film engineering: art in the front, spreadsheets in the back. And so the foundations are set, a sequel born from momentum, engineered through analytics, executed through tight budget efficiency, and enriched by emotional continuity. Taken 2 begins not with novelty but with resonance, with the idea that past actions create future storms, and that the dead do not stay silent in stories or in the marketplace. It promises danger, consequence, and tightly wound human vulnerability, all framed within a cinematic machine running at full operational clarity. This is where the journey starts, in the quiet before the pursuit, where both story and studio prepare to strike. The early stretch of Taken 2 unfolds with a quiet, deceptive calm, as if the film wants the audience to breathe just long enough before tightening its grip again. Brian Mills is in Istanbul on a private security assignment, a job that feels like both a retreat and a residue of his former life. The way he moves through the hotel lobby, alert but relaxed, captures that paradox. A man who wants peace but has been re-engineered by trauma to anticipate the slightest shift in the air. This emotional duality is critical because the narrative wastes no time in reminding us that peace, for Brian, is always a temporary asset, one whose value depreciates quickly in the presence of unresolved enemies. The plot's early design works like the R&D phase of a startup, measured, observational, and quietly strategic. Kim, back home in Los Angeles, is struggling with the aftermath of Paris. Her panic attacks, her hesitations, her attempts to reclaim normalcy all create a psychological texture that enriches a film beyond its action label. This time, the emotional investment is not built on immediate danger, but on lingering damage. Brian encourages her driving lessons, conversations, simple human habits, like a father reteaching his daughter how to live in a world that hurt her once and could hurt her again. These scenes serve as emotional prototyping, testing the audience's empathy, reaffirming familial bonds, and seeding later narrative mechanics. When Lenore's relationship collapses, Brian's instinct to help becomes an essential narrative hinge. The first film emphasized paternal rescue. Here, the dynamics shift toward emotional repair. He invites Lenore and Kim to Istanbul, a gesture meant to bridge old wounds and create new stability. And from production standpoint, this decision is brilliant. It places a family directly into the geographic heart of the upcoming conflict, minimizing plot logistics while maximizing emotional economy. A single location now holds both domestic tension and international danger, making every scene pull double narrative weight. As they arrive in Istanbul, the film deploys the city not as a mere backdrop, but as a character. Its labyrinthine streets, call to prayer echoes, and textured architecture create an immersive density. This environment amplifies the emotional stakes by contrasting the family's tentative reconnect ion with a city where surveillance is easy, escape is difficult, and anonymity is impossible. It is here that the film's financial design, shooting primarily in controlled neighborhoods, using practical set extensions, leveraging local labor, intersects beautifully with its narrative rhythms, creating a world that feels expansive without overspending. Early sequences with the family are intentionally warm. Brian and Kim sharing rooftop breakfast, Lenore softening ever so slightly, the three of them walking through bazaars. It all feels like a fragile recalibration, a delicate prototype of a future that might exist if danger would simply stop calling their name. But this warmth is also functional. It is emotional capital, deposited intentionally so the payoff later will be sharper. Suspense films rely on these investments. Without them, risk has no value. And the script engineers this with efficiency. Each smile, each hesitation, each moment of closeness becomes data feeding the story's emotional ledger. Meanwhile, in Albania, funerals are taking place. The fathers and brothers of the men Brian Mills killed in Paris mourn in a slow, ritualistic procession. Murad Krasniqi, the patriarch, speaks with a chilling resolve. Justice must be repaid, blood for blood. These scenes serve as a franchise's emotional audit, reminding us that violence carries compound interest. What Brian did to save his daughter was morally justified, but morally justified actions can still produce enemies. This simple reality becomes a film's psychological spine. Revenge is not linear, it expands. It spreads like a ledger that refuses to close. When Murad's men track Brian to Istanbul, the narrative begins tightening its first major coil. Surveillance shots, tailing vehicles, whispered radios. These elements operate like the early warning metrics in a business dashboard, subtle indicators that something seismic is about to break. Brian senses it first. He notices the way a car slows behind them, the way footsteps echo with pattern. His intuitive algorithm, built from decades of intelligence work, activates instantly. And this transition from relaxed father to operational strategist is one of the franchise's strongest emotional mechanics. It reinforces the idea that trauma hardwires vigilance. Brian is a man who never fully rests. The abduction attempt comes swiftly, efficiently, almost clinically. Brian and Lenore are taken while Kim, by sheer timing, escapes. This inversion, where the child becomes a survivor and the parents the captives, is one of the film's smartest structural choices. It reframes the franchise's emotional economy. In ***, Brian taught Kim how to survive indirectly. Now, he must guide her explicitly while he himself is trapped. This reversal turns a narrative into a conversational choreography. Kim becomes a mobile operative, Brian the imprisoned strategist. It is both character growth and narrative innovation. The tension of the first half escalates through tight, focused sequences that reflect optimized pacing IOI. Every moment is built to carry both suspense and emotional consequence. Brian, bound and blooded, assesses his environment like an engineer mapping a damaged system. He listens for pipe resonance, counts footsteps, measures the acoustics of the room. These details ground the action in realism while subtly showcasing skills that are not superhuman, but practiced. From a psychological standpoint, Brian's calm under extreme pressure reflects trauma-conditioned cognition. When the mind has experienced chaos before, it learns to build order faster. Meanwhile, Kim, trembling but determined, enters her own arc of transformation. She becomes the film's emotional and operational bridge, leveraging her father's instructions while processing her own residual fear. The rooftop grenade-throwing sequence, a method for Brian to acoustically triangulate his location, is a perfect example of emotional storytelling fused with tactical problem-solving. It is simultaneously destructive and intimate, frightening and empowering. The film uses this moment to signal that Kim is not merely surviving the situation, but rewriting her own internal narrative, from victim to participant. As the first half concludes, the film positions all three family members in a volatile triangle of danger and determination. Lenore hangs between consciousness and shock. Brian calculates every second. Kim pushes against her own thresholds. Nothing is resolved, yet everything is set in motion. This is where the film excels, in turning emotional stakes into kinetic tension, in transforming past trauma into present strategy. The first half ends like the crest of a wave, holding breath, holding possibility, holding the weight of a father who has run out of room but not out of resolve. The second half of ****, begins with a shift in energy, no longer the creeping dread of pursuit, but the sharp velocity of a narrative fully detonated. Brian, bound and bruised, has already begun reconstructing his environment through sound, memory, and instinct, and now the film converts that psychological momentum into movement. Kim, trembling yet resolute, follows his instructions with increasing precision. This father-daughter interplay becomes the emotional fulcrum of the second half, fear reshaped into collaboration, and collaboration reshaped into survival. The film mirrors a startup shifting from prototype to market release. The testing phase is over. Now the product must perform under pressure. As Kim navigates the rooftops of Istanbul, the film uses vertical space as emotional metaphor. Her movements are frantic but purposeful, each step reflecting her internal oscillation between terror and determination. She is no longer the panicked girl from Paris. She is learning to operationalize fear. Every terror she crosses, every jump she makes, becomes part of her imagined emotional architecture. The camera reinforces the psychological evolution by staying close, handheld, vibrating with a breath, creating a sensorial echo of vulnerability and courage intertwined. Brian's voice guides are like a stabilizing signal through noise. When Kim drops the second grenade and Brian pinpoints the reverberation with near-mathematical clarity, the storytelling takes on an almost scientific rhythm. It blends tension with geoacoustic logic, transforming a simple rescue mechanic into an engineering exercise. This is one of the franchise's signature strengths, the ability to blend emotional stakes with practical, almost DIY intelligence. Brian is not performing miracles. He is solving problems under duress. And the audience, consciously or not, becomes part of that cognitive process, anticipating angles, distances, and timing as if participating in the troubleshooting of a complex human system. Once Brian frees himself from captivity, the narrative shifts into acceleration mode. His escape is not glamorous. It is grounded in brute survival tactics. He fights not with flourish, but with precision, an economy of movement reflecting both age and experience. These scenes demonstrate the film's reverence for practicality over spectacle. Punches are not theatrical, they are functional. Chases are messy, close quarter, and often improvised. The film uses its realism to build authenticity, ensuring that emotional engagement remains high even as the pacing intensifies. Meanwhile, Lenore's condition escalates the urgency. She is weak, bleeding, and fading between consciousness and shock. Her vulnerability becomes a primary emotional driver of the second half. Brian's focus on her is not just paternal but strategic. He knows that psychological collapse travels faster than physical injury. The need to reach her transforms a film into a ticking clock scenario, compressing time into a series of narrow possibilities. Each decision Brian makes must balance physical risk with precision timing, like a leader making high-stakes choices during a market crisis. Kim eventually reaches safety, and here the narrative makes a subtle but meaningful pivot. Brian entrusts her with her own survival. This is not a trivial moment. In the first film, survival was something Brian delivered to her. In the second, it becomes something she participates in. There is generational symbolism embedded in their exchange, the acknowledgement that trauma can be reconfigured into strength when guided with clarity and love. The film uses this transition to prepare the emotional landscape for the final confrontation. The taxi chase across Istanbul is one of the film's most kinetic sequences, blending geography, velocity, and emotional stakes into a single flowing mechanism. The car hurtles through narrow streets, against traffic, down stair-like pathways, feeling less like an action set piece and more like a metaphor for the Mills family, battered, cornered, and forced to navigate impossible terrain through instinct alone. The use of real Istanbul traffic, tight tones, and handheld framing amplifies the emotion. It is a demonstration of how action sequences can operate as emotional accelerators rather than mere visual spectacle. Yet the film's brilliance lies not in constant motion but in its strategic pauses. After Brian secures Kim, he returns alone to rescue Lenore, and the narrative shifts into a lower, darker register. The streets of Istanbul become labyrinthine again, shadows folding around him like old memories. This quieter stretch creates a necessary emotional recalibration, a moment where the film reminds us that violence is weight and consequences cannot be outrun. Brian moves with a subtle desperation, a man who has learned to fear not death, but loss. When he confronts the kidnappers again, the choreography becomes more intimate, almost ritualistic. The violence is swift but purposeful, reflecting not anger but necessity. Brian does not kill for satisfaction. He neutralizes threats away and engineer disables faulty wiring. Cold, focused, efficient. And this ethic is central to the franchise's behavioral core. Brian's brutality is never gratuitous. It is shaped by responsibility, not rage. This moral framing transforms the action into something more grounded and psychologically intelligent. The final confrontation with Murad Krasniqi carries a different emotional tone than the first film's villains. Murad is not merely a criminal but a grieving father, a man who has transformed loss into obsession. His motive complicates the moral calculus of the story, elevating the encounter beyond simple hero versus villain dynamics. When Brian disarms him and refuses to kill him, the moment becomes a kind of emotional audit, a reckoning with the cost of violence. Brian offers him a choice, a symbolic invitation to break the revenge cycle. Murad refuses. His death is not triumphant. It is tragic, the endpoint of a man who chose vengeance over healing. When Lenore is finally rescued, bleeding and exhausted, the emotional climax is not built on victory but on relief. The family reunites with an unspoken understanding that danger may return someday, but love and resilience form their real armor. The pacing decelerates, allowing the emotional investment accumulated over the film's runtime to settle into a quiet resolution. It is a return to equilibrium, like a system stabilizing after a period of extreme volatility. The second half concludes by reframing the narrative not as a story about violence, but as a story about survival, adaptation, and emotional intelligence under pressure. Brian Mills is not invincible. He is simply relentless. His family is not unbreakable. They are simply unwilling to remain victims. And in this balance between fear and agency, *Taken 2* transforms its action into something richer, a meditation on healing emotion. Brian Mills in the second film deepens into a portrait of controlled volatility, a man whose emotional circuitry has been rewired by trauma, but who refuses to let that trauma corrupt his judgment. Every decision he makes carries a weight of accumulated loss, and yet he channels that weight into methodical, almost scientific precision. He is a rare action protagonist who fights not with ego, but with calculation. In Taken 2*, Brian evolved from simply being a rescuer to becoming a stabilizing force for his family's emotional ecosystem. His intelligence is not academic, but instinctive, pattern recognition, psychological reading, and situational analysis operating at near-machine efficiency. This blend of emotional restraint and tactical clarity is what gives his character longevity beyond standard action movie archetypes. He is a system built for crisis. What sets Brian apart is how the film preserves his humanity. Even in moments of lethal force, there is hesitation, a small flicker of conscience that prevents him from devolving into the very thing he fights. His refusal to kill Murad during their first confrontation is not weakness but ethical restraint. It shows that Brian sees violence as a tool, not an identity. He navigates trauma the way a professional navigates high-risk markets, with caution, analysis, and a refusal to make impulsive emotional trades. His resilience is less about toughness and more about emotional discipline, making him one of the most psychologically grounded action protagonists of the 2010s. Lenore's character arc in the film creates the emotional anchor that counterbalances Brian's tactical momentum. When the movie begins, she is navigating the quieter heartbreak of a failing marriage, and his emotional vulnerability becomes an entry point for the audience. She is not portrayed as weak, but as someone temporarily destabilized by the emotional turbulence of her life. When she is kidnapped, the stakes shift from physical danger to emotional urgency. Her deterioration is slow, almost clinical, forcing Brian to accelerate and adapt. Lenore's arc is not one of transformation but revelation. Her strength is subtle, residing in endurance rather than action. What makes Lenore particularly compelling in Taken 2* is the way the film uses silence to define her. She spends much of the second half weakened or unconscious, and yet her presence drives the narrative more forcefully than many characters who dominate the screen with dialogue. Lenore becomes the embodiment of emotional collateral, the reminder that trauma does not just pursue individuals but entire families. Her fragility becomes a kind of narrative gravity, pulling Brian and Kim toward her, shaping their decisions and forcing them into roles they are not yet ready for. Lenore's character illustrates how vulnerability can be a plot engine, not just a device. Kim Mills undergoes the most pronounced evolution in the film. shifting from a fearful teenager to an active participant in her own survival. Taken 1 forced her into the role of a victim. Taken 2 allows her to begin reclaiming agency. The rooftop sequences symbolize this transition visually as she rises, literally and metaphorically, above her panic. Her relationship with Brian becomes more collaborative, resembling an emotional apprenticeship. Each instruction he gives her is not just tactical but developmental, shaping her instincts and strengthening her psychological autonomy. Through this dynamic, Kim becomes a living demonstration of how trauma can be metabolized into resilience when guided with patience and love. One of the most fascinating aspects of Kim's evolution is how the film portrays her decision-making. She second-guesses herself, stumbles, hesitates, but still pushes forward. This imperfection makes her arc authentic. She is not suddenly transformed into an action hero. Instead, the film respects her youth, her fear, and her gradual steps toward confidence. Kim represents the audience's emotional proxy, showing how courage is often the result of small, shaky choices made under pressure. Her character arc is the heart of the movie's generational theme. Strength does not always transfer genetically, but it can be taught. Murad Krasniqi, the antagonist, is one of the franchise's most morally complex villains. He is not driven by greed or ideology, but by grief, a grief that has metastasized into vengeance. This narrative framing forces the audience into an uncomfortable reflection. Where is the line between justice and obsession? Murad believes, sincerely, that he is restoring balance to his world by avenging his son. The tragedy is that his grief blinds him to the possibility of peace. He becomes a case study in emotional mismanagement, demonstrating how unprocessed trauma can harden into violence. Through this lens, Murad is not merely a villain. He is a narrative mirror, reflecting what Brian could have become if he had allowed pain to guide him instead of discipline. The film subtly humanizes Murad without excusing him. His mannerisms are slow, deliberate, weighted by sorrow. His rage is not explosive but simmering. This emotional stillness is what makes him formidable. The danger he represents is not unpredictability but inevitability. He is a man who has convinced himself that vengeance is the only available currency in a world that has robbed him. By giving the antagonist emotional depth, the film elevates the entire narrative. The conflict becomes psychological, not just physical. It is a clash of worldviews, not merely weapons. Murad's henchmen operate more as an extension of his grief than individual characters, and yet they play an important narrative function. They fill the world with tension and urgency, forcing Brian to remain in constant motion. The henchmen are not faceless drones. Their movements are coordinated, professional, and shaped by cultural codes of honor and retribution. Their loyalty to Murad is not transactional but familial, which reinforces the film's thematic emphasis on family bonds. Even in villainy, the movie maintains its fascination with the architectures of loyalty. The Istanbul police play a subtle but effective role in shaping the tension of the narrative. Their presence adds an undercurrent of realism. After all, Brian is not a superhero operating above law. He is a man whose actions exist in a world with political and legal consequences. Their frustration with him, their confusion about the violent events unraveling across their city, and their attempt to intervene create a parallel storyline about institutional systems reacting to individual crises. This secondary layer adds texture to the narrative, grounding the film's action in the reality of civic disruption. When you look at Taken 2 you don't just see a sequel. You see a calculated financial machine designed to capitalize on global momentum. The first film was a sleeper hit, a relatively modest production that turned Liam Neeson into an unlikely action icon. So when producing Taken 2 EuropaCorp and 20th Century Fox knew they were not simply making a movie. They were managing a high-value asset with proven audience appetite. The estimated production budget, hovering around $45 million, approximate wasn't just a number. It was an investment in brand continuity, franchise stability, and international box office potential. The entire project was engineered like controlled economic escalation, increase the spectacle, maintain the emotional simplicity, minimize narrative risk, and maximize global reach. The allocation of that budget is a study in strategic prioritization. Rather than attempting to rebuild the cinematic wheel, the studio focused on what delivered the strongest IOI in the first film, tight action choreography, kinetic editing, strong emotional stakes, and a performance-driven engine. The money went where tension lives. Fight teams, stunt coordination, location logistics, and Balkan-inspired production design that lent the sequel a sense of cultural hostility and geopolitical tension. Istanbul wasn't just a setting, it was a marketing asset. Its labyrinthine streets, historic architecture, and natural chaos delivered high production value without requiring massive digital expenditure. It is a perfect example of cinematic arbitrage, getting expensive-looking visuals for a fraction of blockbuster cost. Marketing spend, while not officially disclosed, can be safely assumed to have at least *** matched or exceeded ** the production budget, a common practice for global action releases. Campaigns emphasize grit, urgency, and Neeson's iconic delivery style, sharp, calm, and lethal. Trailers leaned heavily on the franchise's psychological contract with audiences, the promise of a father who will stop at nothing to protect his family. It wasn't marketed as a sequel. It was marketed as a continuation of a personal myth. That thematic consistency not only reduced creative risk, but lowered advertising complexity. Familiarity lowers CPM, and in 2012 the social ecosystem allowed studios to weaponize virality while keeping traditional promotion efficient. The IOI model for *2* was built on global scalability. With an action narrative requiring minimal translation, the film was engineered for international profitability. Its worldwide box office surpassed $376 million, approximate achieving an impressive *8x return on production costs before accounting for marketing and ancillary revenue. This is a rare kind of franchise economics, where narrative simplicity becomes a financial advantage. The lack of heavy CGI meant fewer post-production expenses, which increased net margin. The action genre, particularly in the early 2010s, was still a dominant force in emerging overseas markets, and *2* benefited enormously from that trend. Ancillary revenue streams further solidified the film's financial footprint. Home media sales, DVD, Blu-ray, early VOD formats, added millions to EBITDA-style profitability. Licensing agreements with airlines, streaming platforms, and international broadcasters extended the revenue tail. Even merchandise, though limited for a gritty adult franchise, included tactical-style accessories and collectible steelbook editions that expanded the film's presence in retail entertainment ecosystems. *2* represents a financial stability that comes from genre clarity. It is an action brand with a clearly defined demographic and predictable long-term monetization patterns. Distributor strategy for the film was highly intelligent. 20th Century Fox positioned *2* for early October release, avoiding direct competition with Summer Titans while still accessing strong early fall turnout. This scheduling optimization reflects the internal calculus of studio economics: maximize screen availability, minimize blockbuster competition, and push marketing bursts when consumer attention is not saturated. This timing allowed the movie to dominate the box office in a period where mid-budget action films could still thrive without being overshadowed by superhero IP. Another financial strength lies in its talent structure. Neeson, by this point, was both a bankable star and a cost-efficient one compared to mega-budget franchise leads. His pay reflected his rising market value, but the numbers still fit within the mid-budget model, allowing the studio to retain profitability margins far higher than those of massive tentpoles. The supporting cast, including Maggie and Famke Janssen, was strategically selected not only for narrative continuity but for economic balance, familiar faces without the heavyweight salaries that typically strain sequel budgets. From a production management standpoint, the film was engineered for cost control. Shooting schedules were tight, location permissions were negotiated aggressively, and stunt sequences were designed for maximum thrill-to-dollar ratio. Director Olivier Megaton leaned into handheld, kinetic visual language, which wasn't just stylistic, it was economical. Short setups, mobile cameras, and controlled environments reduced burn rate. This is filmmaking where every operational decision echoes the financial philosophy behind it: efficient, intense, disciplined. The marketing narrative also integrated psychological economics. The emphasis on revenge, fear, and parental protection tapped into universal emotional triggers. This meant that every trailer, poster, and TV spot didn't just advertise a movie, they activated primal instincts. When marketing can leverage the emotional subconscious, CPM drops because audience attention becomes self-sustaining. The fan base amplified messaging organically, creating unpaid momentum that amplified paid advertising. This is the invisible multiplier of high-frequency action franchises. When we examine the film's complete profitability arc, Taken 2 stands as one of the most financially successful mid-budget action sequels of the 2010s. It proves that you don't need $150 million to dominate global markets. You need a tight emotional hook, a powerful performance anchor, international-friendly action design, and a studio willing to treat filmmaking like a blend of creativity and capital strategy. It is a perfect example of how a franchise can evolve into a revenue engine without sacrificing narrative accessibility. Ultimately, Taken 2 is a financial case study in controlled escalation. Spend more, earn more, but do so with intelligence. Use brand familiarity as leverage. Optimize costs through location selection. Invest in action where the audience feels it most viscerally. And above all, keep the emotional stakes simple and universally relatable. In the business of cinema, clarity is often the most profitable strategy. The technological backbone of Taken 2 is a fascinating study in how modern action cinema blends engineering with adrenaline. What makes a film compelling is not only the choreography of fists, bullets, and breathless chases, but the hidden machinery behind those moments: camera systems, sensor capabilities, lenses, audio architectures, editing pipelines, lighting strategies, and the digital workflow that transforms raw chaos into cinematic coherence. While the film is built on emotional urgency, the technology behind it is a controlled symphony of precision. And in a production that relies so heavily on close-quarters combat, tactile tension, and urban geography, every technical choice becomes an emotional multiplier. The camera's use on Taken 2 reflect a philosophy of mobility and impact. EuropaCorp favored systems that delivered high dynamic range while remaining nimble in crowded environments. Although the studio didn't release a formal camera package list, the 2010 to 2012 European action market heavily favored Alexa Classic units paired with lightweight rigs. The Alexa Super 35 sensor gave cinematographer Roman Le Corbusier the ability to capture clean low-light imagery, essential for night sequences in Istanbul's alleys, while maintaining consistent color response and highlight protection. The color science of the Alexa also supported Neeson's grayscale, weathered complexion, giving his character a hardened, tactile presence on screen. Lens selection played an equally crucial role in shaping the film's psychological environment. Action films often rely on fast primes for intimacy and wide zooms for chaos, and Taken 2 is no exception. Short focal lengths emphasize spatial distortion during fights, tightening the environment and heightening panic. Longer lenses isolate characters during pursuit sequences, compressing distance and emphasizing instability. This interplay of optics contributes directly to the audience's emotional calibration. The lenses are not just capturing the world, they are sculpting fear, urgency, and uncertainty through geometry. One of the key visual signatures of Taken 2 is its commitment to handheld camera work. While this style has become synonymous with modern action films, here it serves more than stylistic flourish. Handheld rigs allow the camera to exist inside the space of the fight, resonating with the physicality of Neeson's movements and giving the audience a sense of embodiment. This approach requires a delicate balance. Too much shake becomes visual noise, while too little reduces a sense of danger. The camera operators executed their work with controlled aggression, ensuring that the kinetic energy felt purposeful rather than chaotic. Color grading was executed with a palette that leans into cool midtones, dirty yellows, and desaturated neutrals. Istanbul's warm earth tones were intentionally muted to create a sense of threat rather than tourism. Using systems like **DaVinci Resolve ***, colorists crafted a visual rhythm that shifts subtly as the story intensifies. Early scenes maintain more natural color contrast, while the kidnapping and escape sequences emphasize colder shadows and steely highlights. This creates a subconscious emotional journey through color science decisions, guiding the audience from discomfort to full-scale panic. Editing is one of the film's most technologically dependent elements. Taken 2 leans on tight, rapid cuts, sometimes too rapid for traditional critics, But the intention is clear, to turn the viewer into an active participant rather than a passive observer. The editing suite, likely using **Avid Media Composer **, a standard in action filmmaking, enabled the production team to blend multiple angles, stunt doubles, and performance beats with speed and continuity. This editing style also allowed choreographers to stage action in short bursts, maximizing the intensity of Neeson's movements while minimizing physical strain on the actor. It is a perfect example of how editing isn't just post-production. It is a form of cinematic engineering. Practical effects dominate **, a deliberate choice in a franchise that values grounded realism over digital spectacle. The explosions, vehicle impacts, and close-range combat rely heavily on stunt coordination, pyrotechnic rigs, air cannons, and mechanical design. CGI is used sparingly, primarily for wire removal, environmental cleanup, and compositing assistance. The philosophy is clear. The audience feels danger more deeply when physics behaves naturally. When a car slams, flips, or skids through Istanbul traffic, it is not pixels. It is real metal interacting with real asphalt. Practical design gives weight to the film, anchoring the emotional stakes in tangible reality. Lighting technology is another unsung hero of the film's tension. Istanbul's cramped streets, reflective surfaces, and layered architecture create complex lighting challenges. The crew employed portable LED arrays and compact HMI units, enabling fast repositioning during chase sequences. This on-the-move lighting approach ensured continuity while allowing the actors and camera operators to remain agile. The lighting strategy reinforces a narrative's psychological tone. Shadows are never purely empty. They are spaces of potential danger, coded with narrative significance through carefully placed highlights and fall-off. Sound design and production audio engineering elevate the film's emotion. Using tools like **Avid Pro Tools **, sound editors layered footsteps, clothing friction, wind shear, metal impacts, and crowd noise to create a dense soundscape. Gunshots have specific sonic textures depending on location. Confined hallways use sharp, compressed blasts, while outdoor shots feature longer reverberation tails. The phone call sequences, a hallmark of the franchise, utilize precise EQ sculpting to isolate frequency zones and create intimacy. Sound becomes a form of psychological storytelling. Every sonic detail carries emotional information. The musical score integrates orchestral tension with percussive patterns, using rhythmic motifs that mimic heartbeat acceleration. The sound mixing team balanced score and effects carefully, ensuring neither overwhelmed the other during climactic scenes. The mix prioritizes emotional breath, moments where the score recedes to amplify footsteps, breathing, or silence. Silence, in fact, is one of the film's most sophisticated tools. By depriving the audience of sound, the film heightens sensitivity, turning every returning noise into a shockwave of tension. The digital workflow for the film followed a structured pipeline: on-set data capture, redundant storage backups, metadata organization, editing assemblies, color grading sessions, VFX integration, and final mastering. This workflow reflects modern industry standards designed to protect against data loss while enabling quick turnaround for dailies. The integration of physical and digital elements demonstrates how contemporary action filmmaking is not merely artistic, it is technological craftsmanship. Ultimately, the technological landscape of **2* represents a harmony between analog danger and digital precision. Every lens, rig, microphone, lighting array, and editing decision contributes to a unified system engineered to deliver adrenaline, clarity, and emotional urgency. Technology in **2* is not ornamental, it is infrastructural. It is the invisible nervous system beneath the narrative skin, translating human fear and resilience into a cinematic experience that feels raw, immediate, and deeply immersive. To understand the full machinery behind **2*, you must see it not only as a high-energy action sequel, but as a meticulously engineered industrial project, one where every hour, every department, every logistic choice is measured in financial consequence. Production management on a mid-budget action film like this functions much like a corporate operation. Timelines track like burn rates, stunt days budgeted like capital allocations, location permits treated as risk variables. And because the film was designed to extend a globally successful brand, the studio's economic strategy was far from improvisational. It was structured, optimized, and deeply intertwined with both creative ambition and operational discipline. From the outset, the production timeline was built with razor-sharp efficiency. Europa Corp and 20th Century Fox established a tight shooting schedule that reduced unnecessary downtime, aligning cast availability, location constraints, and stunt coordination into a single integrated calendar. Istanbul, the primary location, offers breathtaking visuals but also immense logistical complexity, traffic density, narrow roads, fluctuating crowds, and cultural limitations that restrict certain filming practices. To overcome this, the production management team developed a synchronized plan in which location scouting, police coordination, and stunt rehearsals were executed simultaneously. This multi-threaded scheduling approach minimized delays and maximized usable footage per shooting day. Time, in film production, is always capital, and *2* demonstrates how aggressively efficient production can protect ROI. Each stunt sequence, car chases, rooftop escapes, hand-to-hand fights, was broken down into microschedules. Shot lists were pre-engineered with the precision of manufacturing blueprints. The second unit, which handles high-risk action, operated almost like an independent department with its own timeline, resource allocation, and performance metrics. By dividing the film into discrete production modules, the studio reduced congestion and improved throughput, ensuring that shooting days remained predictable and cost-stable. Workforce allocation was equally structured. A film like *2* requires a dense hierarchy of personnel: stunt teams, pyrotechnic supervisors, camera operators, grips, lighting technicians, location managers, transport coordinators, dialect coaches, medical staff, and dozens more. The production structure resembled a corporate pyramid: clear leadership at the top, specialized managers in the middle, and highly skilled operators executing the plan at ground level. This hierarchy enabled rapid decision-making. When shooting in a bustling city where daylight is limited and local authorities impose strict time windows, production cannot afford bureaucratic slowdown. Clear chains of command ensure that creative and safety decisions could be executed instantly. Leadership dynamics also played a significant role. Director Olivier Megaton, known for kinetic pacing, worked closely with line producers and department heads to maintain forward momentum. Liam Neeson's availability, stamina, and physical limitations were factored into scheduling from the beginning. At 60 years old during production, Neeson's action scenes had to be carefully planned to minimize fatigue while still fulfilling audience expectations. Production managers coordinated closely with choreographers and stunt doubles to design sequences that allowed Neeson to deliver emotional intensity without compromising safety or efficiency. The result was a collaborative ecosystem where performance requirements and logistical realities were continuously balanced. One of the most significant economic decisions was the choice to film in Istanbul. The city offers cinematic richness. Its textures, colors, and architectural density provide natural production value. But Istanbul is also a complex logistical landscape. Permits require negotiation with local government offices. Security forces must be involved in crowd control, and cultural restrictions influence staging. The studio knew this but accepted the risk because the potential visual payoff was enormous. The cost-benefit analysis concluded that Istanbul's organic visual drama would reduce the need for expensive set construction or CGI augmentation, maintaining the film within its mid-budget constraints. Transportation management was another critical component. Moving equipment, vehicles, and hundreds of crew members through a city as congested as Istanbul requires military-grade organizational skill. Production trucks needed separate routes to avoid interrupting shooting flow. Camera car rigs had to be deployed quickly in tight conditions. Stunt vehicles had to be coordinated with local traffic patterns to avoid endangering civilians while still preserving authenticity. These logistical puzzles were solved through layered planning and constant adaptive communication, a real-time dance of engineering, planning, and improvisation. Production safety also functions as a major economic variable. Every stunt carries financial risk, and injury can derail the entire film. Therefore, safety officers were deeply integrated into pre-visualization and action design. Stunt rehearsals were conducted in controlled environments with high-speed cameras recording practice movements, allowing coordinators to adjust action beats before attempting them on location. This reduces the likelihood of reshoots, medical delays, and insurance claims. In a mid-budget production, avoiding unexpected medical repair costs is essential for maintaining profitability. The studio economics behind Taken 2 reveal an intricate strategy. Unlike tentpole blockbusters, which can exceed $200 million and require mass market domination to reach break-even, Taken 2 adhered to a disciplined budget in the mid-$40 million range, approximate. This cost structure allowed the studio to pursue a fast turnaround profit model. By controlling expenses and ensuring global appeal through streamlined action design, the film was built to return investment quickly and consistently. This model reduces risk exposure for financiers and enables sequels to be greenlit with confidence. Ancillary revenue projections were integrated into the studio's economic planning even before production began. Because the first Taken became a home media phenomenon, the sequel's financial model included robust expectations for Blu-ray, DVD, and digital sales. International pre-sales also played a key role. Action films perform strongly in overseas markets, and distributors often commit funds before the film is completed, which reduces upfront financial pressure on producers. Thus, the production strategy wasn't just about making a movie, it was about producing a global commodity position for long-tail monetization. Cross-departmental coordination forms a core of successful production management, and Taken 2 exemplifies this. Art direction, costume design, stunt choreography, cinematography, and logistics were all interconnected. For example, the decision to shoot rooftop chases required structural engineers to evaluate the load-bearing capacity of specific buildings. The costume department had to modify wardrobe pieces for stunt compatibility. Lighting teams planned rigging strategies with architectural constraints in mind. This symbiotic interplay of departments reflects how film production is truly a multidisciplinary engineering project disguised as entertainment. Ultimately, the behind-the-scenes management of Taken 2 reveals a profound truth about cinema. Action films are not born from chaos. They are manufactured with precision. The thrills feel spontaneous, but behind them lies a vast network of planning, timing, delegation, negotiation, adaptation, and financial foresight. The success of Taken 2 at the global box office is not an accident. It is a result of an industrial system functioning at remarkable efficiency, transforming human coordination and economic strategy into on-screen adrenaline. At first glance, Taken 2 reads as a pure action thriller, a high-octane chase across Istanbul with a father racing against time to save his family. Yet beneath the visceral sequences lies a subtle layer of historical and cultural context that shapes audience perception and narrative credibility. Istanbul, the bridge between Europe and Asia, is not simply a cinematic backdrop. It is a living, historically dense environment whose streets, mosques, and bazaars are imbued with centuries of geopolitical memory. The production team engaged in research to ensure that these elements were depicted authentically, reflecting the city's layered urban structure and the cultural markers of Turkey's architectural and social history. This attention to detail, while often invisible to casual viewers, underpins a film's sense of plausibility and global realism. The depiction of Albanian criminal networks, which drive a narrative's revenge plot, is partially grounded in reality. While the film exaggerates for dramatic effect, some research into Balkan organized crime informed the characters' hierarchical structures, codes of loyalty, and ritualized revenge practices. Murad Krasniqi, the antagonist patriarch, represents a fictionalized archetype, but the concept of multi-generational vendettas has historical precedent in certain regions of the Balkans. Consulting with cultural advisors and regional experts, the filmmakers ensured that even heightened dramatic moments retained the thread of anthropological authenticity, giving audiences the sense that the threat, while cinematic, is embedded in an emotionally and socially coherent world. Transportation and geography were also approached with pragmatic research. Istanbul's densely populated urban zones, narrow staircases, and multi-level pedestrian routes are central to the film's chase sequences. Production planners conducted field studies to understand traffic flow, pedestrian density, and building access, ensuring that car chases, rooftop escapes, and foot pursuits remain physically believable. This aligns the narrative with environmental physics. Vehicles accelerate, collide, and maneuver within real-world constraints rather than obeying purely cinematic rules. By adhering to these empirical constraints, the film maintains a level of kinetic realism that enhances audience immersion. Brian Mill's tactical methodologies are another area where scientific scrutiny informs believability. His use of acoustic triangulation, observation, and improvised leverage reflect principles of applied problem-solving, situational awareness, and human behavioral analysis. While dramatized for tension, these techniques draw on real-world intelligence training, blending cognitive psychology with practical physics. For example, the rooftop grenade scene is exaggerated for effect, yet the principles of resonance detection and directional estimation mirror plausible auditory physics. The filmmakers balance technical plausibility with cinematic spectacle, ensuring that audiences can emotionally engage without being distracted by obvious impossibilities. Action sequence timing also reflects underlying scientific logic. The choreography of hand-to-hand combat, falls through multiple layers of space was informed by biomechanics, physics, and stunt coordination science. Stunt teams mapped trajectories, calculated impact forces, and tested rigging to maximize both safety and visual authenticity. Each punch, kick, or fall adheres to laws of motion in a way that supports narrative believability while delivering cinematic excitement. This is where science and art intersect. The physicality of action becomes emotionally readable because it obeys a consistent internal logic, even under heightened dramatic circumstances. Cultural consultation extended to costuming, set design, and local customs. The production team ensured that police uniforms, marketplace attire, and domestic interiors accurately reflected contemporary Turkish standards, blending modern elements with traditional architecture. Misrepresenting these details could have jarred international audiences or triggered cultural inaccuracy critiques. By maintaining this fidelity, the film not only enhances emotion but also demonstrates a subtle ethical commitment, portraying cultures responsibly even within a high-octane action narrative. The Istanbul police, though simplified for dramatic expediency, were constructed with some operational realism. While the rapid mobilization and occasional incompetence are exaggerated for suspense, the depiction of patrol coordination, response hierarchies, and urban navigation aligns loosely with real-world law enforcement practices. The filmmakers struck a balance, providing enough procedural truth to ground tension without bogging the story down in technical minutiae. This represents an intersection of narrative efficiency and realistic procedure. Audiences sense procedural logic without needing in-depth exposition. Medical accuracy is subtle but present. Lenore's injuries, the portrayal of bleeding, shock, and consciousness levels, are carefully staged to communicate urgency without misrepresenting human physiology. The production team worked with on-set medical consultants to simulate trauma realistically, ensuring that Brian's actions, applying pressure, improvising immobilization, and moving victims, reflected plausible responses under duress. This accuracy reinforces a narrative stakes. The audience can perceive genuine threat and potential fatality, which heightens emotional investment in both plot and characters. The depiction of firearms and ammunition is another example of balanced realism. Guns behave in a cinematic manner for pacing, but recoil, muzzle flash, and reload timing are grounded in authentic handling techniques. Stunt coordinators and weapons experts advise on gun movement, placement, and interaction with sets to maintain credibility. While sequences are stylized for clarity and tension, they adhere to enough procedural and mechanical truth that the audience's suspension of disbelief remains intact. Small details, like the weight of weapons or the sound of bullets impacting metal, reinforce the immersive environment. Linguistic accuracy was also considered. Albanian and Turkish dialogue snippets were checked for pronunciation and context by native speakers, ensuring that background exchanges, street signage, and verbal interactions felt authentic. These small, often subconscious details contribute to the narrative's historical and cultural realism, providing a textured world where viewers can believe that characters inhabit real spaces rather than abstract sets. Even minor lines or street cries reinforce the layered realism of Istanbul and the Balkan antagonists. Strategic logistics and realistic economics inform plot believability. Murad's operations, though highly dramatized, reflect coherent planning. Men are positioned to control movement, urban geography is exploited, and timing is carefully orchestrated. These principles mirror principles of operational research and tactical reasoning. Even in fiction, the sense of plausibility is rooted in credible cause and effect chains. The film's commitment to these operational logics enhances suspense. The audience knows consequences follow predictable rules even as unpredictability drives tension. Ultimately, *2* demonstrates how historical and scientific awareness can coexist with high-octane cinematic storytelling. Authentic cultural representation, realistic urban physics, tactical plausibility, medical accuracy, and operational logic all combine to reinforce the film's immersive tension. The audience experiences fear and urgency not because everything is strictly realistic, but because the narrative obeys a consistent internal logic rooted in fact-based research. This interplay between story, science, and history allows *2* to maintain credibility, deepen emotional stakes, and sustain global resonance. The cinematography of *2* operates as both an emotional amplifier and a technical showcase, turning Istanbul's streets, rooftops, and alleyways into instruments of tension. Director Olivier Megaton and cinematographer Roman Le Corbus carefully engineered each frame to optimize emotional impact while maintaining operational efficiency on a mid-budget scale. From the very first chase sequence, the audience is immersed in a world where lens choice, camera movement, lighting, and composition combine to create a sense of constant, high-stakes urgency. Visual engineering, in this context, is about translating human fear and focus into measurable cinematic signals. Lens selection is critical to shaping perception. Wide-angle lenses dominate chase sequences, exaggerating depth and distance while compressing urban space to create a sense of claustrophobia. Handheld long lenses isolate individual characters during rooftop scenes, pulling viewers into intimate proximity with Kim's and Brian's emotional states. These optical choices are not arbitrary. They directly manipulate audience attention and emotional investment. Cinematography becomes a controlled psychological experiment, with light, focus, and depth of field functioning as variables in human perception. The camera's kinetic behavior mirrors narrative tension. Megaton employs a combination of handheld, Steadicam, and vehicle-mounted rigs to create dynamic energy that mirrors the character's motion. In foot chases across Istanbul rooftops, the camera does not simply follow, it participates, weaving through obstacles, vibrating with breathless intensity. The result is an experimental immersion where audience heartbeat syncs with the protagonist's stress. This blending of spatial awareness and motion design exemplifies how modern cinematography transforms raw footage into psychological engineering. Composition and framing play an equally important role. Urban environments are treated as both narrative and visual architecture. Rooftops, stairways, and market streets are composed in layered frames that allow simultaneous awareness of danger and escape. Overhead shots, when used sparingly, provide strategic clarity, letting audiences anticipate obstacles and evaluate spatial relationships without diminishing tension. The careful interplay between wide establishing shots and intimate close-ups maintains continuous narrative engagement, converting spatial data into visceral emotional cues. Lighting strategy reinforces emotional tone while adhering to logistical constraints. The film employs practical light sources, street lamps, shop interiors, vehicle headlights, supplemented by portable HMI and LED arrays. This approach preserves the authenticity of Istanbul's nightscapes while giving cinematographers flexibility in positioning and mobility. Shadows are manipulated to create suspense, isolating threats in semi-darkness without obscuring necessary visual information. The interplay between artificial and natural light is calibrated to guide audience focus and sustain emotional engagement throughout prolonged action sequences. Dynamic range management is central to the film's visual engineering. Shooting in Istanbul's diverse environments, from sun-drenched rooftops to shadowed alleyways, requires careful sensor calibration. High-contrast scenes are captured using the ARRI Alexa's capacity for extended latitude, preserving detail in highlights and shadows. This technical choice ensures that the film can depict urban complexity while maintaining visual clarity for the audience. The engineering of light and sensor response becomes a key factor in narrative comprehension and tension modulation. Color science is used strategically to support narrative rhythm. The film's palette oscillates between desaturated neutrals and muted blues, grounding sequences in realism while visually differentiating spaces of threat and sanctuary. During moments of high tension, color saturation subtly shifts to amplify anxiety, whereas more reflective moments employ warmer tones to create temporary emotional relief. These shifts are carefully engineered, contributing to subconscious cues that help audiences navigate the story emotionally, even when their attention is fully occupied by action. Camera placement and movement are meticulously choreographed to facilitate stunt and action integration. Rooftop sequences, vehicle chases, and fight scenes are mapped as spatial puzzles. Each angle, pan, and tracking shot is pre-visualized, ensuring actors and stunt teams occupy precise positions for safety and cinematic clarity. The integration of pre-visualization techniques and technical rehearsal reflect a production approach where visual engineering intersects with physical risk management. Cinematography in *2* is not improvisational. It is a calculated system designed to deliver maximum emotional resonance with operational efficiency. Depth of field is used to guide focus and narrative comprehension. In crowded streets or chaotic fight sequences, shallow focus isolates protagonists from background noise, emphasizing their psychological state. Conversely, deep focus reveals environmental threats, ensuring the audience can assess spatial relationships critical to tension and suspense. This selective focus serves as a visual parallel to Brian's heightened situational awareness, translating his analytical mind into the audience's visual experience. The result is a form of empathetic engineering. Viewers see through protagonist perception while retaining cinematic clarity. Visual rhythm is enhanced through editing integration. Though technically a separate discipline, it relies on the cinematography team's foresight. Camera movement, shot length, and framing are synchronized with editing pacing to create seamless transitions between high-intensity sequences and quieter, tension-building moments. This collaboration between cinematography and editing ensures that every frame functions both as an independent visual unit and as part of a coherent temporal flow. The audience experiences not only story but the mechanics of suspense, encoded visually. The film also leverages environmental geometry as a visual storytelling tool. Rooftop lines, staircases, and alley convergences form natural vectors, guiding the eye and reinforcing directional intent. The cinematographer's understanding of spatial physics allows for shots that emphasize height, danger, and escape potential. These choices amplify emotional stakes while subtly communicating the character's strategic options. In effect, the audience is trained to read the city as a tactical environment, just as Brian does in the narrative, reinforcing immersion and cognitive alignment. Ultimately, *2* demonstrates that cinematography is more than aesthetics. It is an engineered emotional language. Lens physics, lighting, dynamic range, color science, focus, camera movement, and composition converge to create a system in which visual data is transformed into psychological experience. Through this meticulous visual engineering, the film ensures that every chase, confrontation, and intimate beat resonates with clarity, tension, and narrative coherence, delivering an immersive cinematic architecture that is both visceral and intellectually engaging. In *2*, sound operates as a strategic emotional amplifier, a critical layer that transforms visual intensity into visceral experience. The film's sonic architecture is meticulously designed to immerse the audience in Istanbul streets, rooftops, and domestic interiors. Every footstep, breath, and distant siren is calibrated to create tension, anticipation, and psychological alignment with the characters. Sound design here is not an afterthought. It is engineered with precision to reinforce narrative clarity, psychological realism, and emotional engagement. The audio becomes a measurable extension of the story, translating action into heartbeat, anticipation, and spatial awareness. Dialogue recording relied on high-fidelity on-set techniques combined with post-production augmentation. Production sound mixers captured speech using *** Sennheiser MK416 *** shotgun microphones and *** wireless lavaliers ***, allowing flexibility during rapid, mobile sequences. Despite complex urban environments with traffic, crowds, and weather variability, the mixers maintain clarity without suppressing ambient realism. In post, dialogue was enhanced using EQ sculpting and noise reduction to preserve intelligibility while integrating naturally with environmental sound, allowing the audience to track narrative cues even amidst chaos. Foley and diegetic sounds are central to the film's immersion. Steps on rooftops, clothing friction, metal collisions, and vehicle impacts were captured in controlled environments, then layered in the mix to match live-action movements. These subtle audio cues communicate spatial relationships, weight, and kinetic energy. For instance, the sound of Brian's boot striking metal staircases or rooftop edges provides critical information about trajectory, distance, and balance. Foley design here functions as an invisible guide for audience attention, encoding physics into perception without explicit explanation. Ambient sound layers contribute significantly to tension. The bazaars, traffic, and urban bustle of Istanbul are not mere background. They are semiotic cues, signaling both opportunity and danger. Wind gusts through narrow alleys, distant horns, and muffled shouts establish continuously shifting auditory landscape. The film's audio team, likely using *** Pro Tools *** with multitrack layering, manipulated these sounds dynamically, adjusting volume, pan, and spatialization in response to narrative beats. The audience subconsciously interprets these cues as environmental realism, heightening engagement and enhancing the perceived stakes of every chase. Action sequences were mixed using multi-channel surround sound to provide immersive spatial awareness. Explosions, gunfire, and vehicle collisions were processed with precise panning and reverb parameters, creating the sensation that danger surrounds the audience. This is not arbitrary. Spatial audio guides emotional response and cognitive focus. Viewers instinctively orient to threats based on sound localization, echo, and frequency content. By engineering these parameters, the filmmakers turn auditory perception into a psychological tool, synchronizing audience attention with character experience. Gunfire and combat sequences receive meticulous sound treatment. Each firearm type exhibits distinct acoustic properties. Muzzle blast, shell ejection, and recoil resonance are combined to create consistency across scenes. In hand-to-hand fights, punch impact, body collision, and environmental interaction are emphasized through layered percussive Foley and subtle low-frequency reinforcement. These choices communicate force and danger more effectively than visual cues alone, creating a multisensory perception of impact. The musical score is integral to the film's emotional manipulation. Composer Nathaniel Meckley utilized a mix of orchestral and percussive motifs, creating recurring tension patterns that mirror narrative pacing. Music is strategically muted during suspenseful anticipation, allowing diegetic sound to dominate, and intensified during climactic moments to heighten urgency. Rhythmic synchronization between score and visual action amplifies heartbeat acceleration in the audience, demonstrating how audio engineering can physiologically manipulate engagement. Dynamic range management ensures that no element dominates or obscures others. Quiet moments, subtle footsteps, whispered dialogue, distant environmental sounds retain clarity, while high-intensity sequences, explosions, gunfire, crashes remain controlled to prevent auditory fatigue. This balance mirrors cinematic economics. Investment in sound detail yields consistent audience retention. Without dynamic discipline, sonic chaos can diminish comprehension and emotional connection, reducing ROI on narrative investment. Silence is wielded strategically. In sequences of imminent danger, removing background noise and score heightens attention, turning minimal sound into a psychological spotlight. For example, when Brian approaches a suspect location, the absence of music and ambient clutter intensifies the perception of risk, guiding the viewer's anticipation in alignment with the character's cognitive state. Silence here functions as both narrative punctuation and immersive engineering, demonstrating sophisticated sound psychology. Sound editing is integrated with visual choreography to maintain perceptual continuity. Each step, door slam, and vehicle movement aligns precisely with corresponding visual beats. This synchronization ensures that the audience interprets spatial and temporal relationships accurately, reinforcing believability and enhancing tension. Editing audio in isolation is insufficient. Sound must be inseparable from motion, creating a cohesive sensory narrative that supports both story and emotion. Mixing layers are structured hierarchically: primary dialogue, secondary effects, ambient environmental cues, Foley reinforcement, music, and sub-bass spatial enhancement. This architecture allows the mix to be adjusted dynamically for narrative emphasis. For instance, in pursuit sequences, environmental cues may be subtly lowered to accentuate character movements or musical tension, ensuring that each auditory signal delivers maximum narrative information without confusion. This layered engineering exemplifies how modern action films transform audio into measurable emotional influence. In conclusion, the sound design and music production of Taken 2 operate as invisible infrastructure that shapes perception, emotion, and comprehension. Dialogue, Foley, ambient layers, combat effects, and orchestral scoring converge to form a meticulously calibrated system of auditory engagement. Technology, psychology, and narrative precision intertwine, demonstrating that in modern cinema, sound is as crucial as image in delivering immersive storytelling. It is the hidden heartbeat of tension, guiding viewers through chaos, danger, and resolution with engineered emotional fidelity. Marketing Taken 2 required more than conventional advertising. It demanded the creation of a global emotional contract, a promise to audiences that a film would deliver high-stakes thrills, narrative continuity, and the iconic performance of Liam Neeson. Europa Corp and 20th Century Fox leveraged a multi-layered campaign, combining traditional media, targeted digital outreach, and audience analytics to optimize every dollar spent. This was not just a promotional effort. It was a calculated investment in audience attention and emotional engagement, where every trailer, poster, and social post were designed as a precise touchpoint in a global entertainment ecosystem. Trailers were meticulously crafted for psychological impact. The marketing team used **AOB testing ** across different demographics to identify the most effective sequences and taglines. Urban chase sequences, moments of fatherly tension, and rooftop confrontations were highlighted in short-form trailers to elicit immediate emotional response. Digital engagement metrics, click-through rates, dwell time, social shares were tracked to refine content in real time. By combining creative intuition with data analytics, the campaign ensured that every audience interaction was a potential conversion point, ticket sales, pre-orders, or social amplification. Targeted demographic segmentation was central to strategy. The film's core audience, males aged 18 to 45 with interest in action franchises, was identified through market research, while secondary audiences included international viewers and adult fans of suspense thrillers. This segmentation informed everything from ad placement to creative tone. Social media campaigns were tailored regionally. Europe emphasized local Istanbul landmarks to enhance relatability, while North America focused on Neeson persona and the high-intensity plot. Each adjustment reflected a sophisticated application of audience analytics to maximize engagement ROI. Influencer campaigns played an increasingly prominent role in 2012 marketing. Action-focused bloggers, film critics, and lifestyle social media personalities were engaged to preview scenes, write commentary, and amplify online buzz. Early teaser content was disseminated via these influencers to generate organic reach. Unlike traditional advertising, these micro-influencers operated as peer-endorsed conduits for credibility, creating audience trust and anticipation. Metrics such as shares, likes, and comment sentiment were quantified to assess campaign effectiveness and guide further strategy. The theatrical release strategy complemented digital efforts. The October release avoided crowded summer blockbuster windows while capitalizing on early fall availability. Marketing expenditure, likely approaching or exceeding $45 million, approximate was focused on high-impact channels, prime television spots, outdoor urban placements, cinema advertising, and digital video pre-rolls. Each channel was selected not simply for reach but for capacity to deliver measurable engagement, from ticketing conversions to social media resonance. ROI calculations extended beyond box office, encompassing home media pre-orders and long-tail streaming interest. International marketing was a key revenue multiplier. Action franchises like Taken 2 translate easily across cultures due to minimal reliance on dialogue-heavy exposition. Campaigns in Europe, Latin America, and Asia emphasize spectacle, urban geography, and high-intensity tension to maximize appeal. Analytics included region-specific ticket trends, past franchise performance, and social media sentiment tracking. This approach ensured that messaging was culturally relevant, maximized screen saturation, and avoided wasted ad spend on ineffective placements. Merchandise strategy, while secondary, reinforced the marketing ecosystem. Licensed collectibles, limited edition Blu-rays, and tactical-themed memorabilia extended brand presence beyond the theater. Even subtle tie-ins, such as branded action sequences for in-flight entertainment or gaming apps, served as low-cost engagement tools, keeping the franchise top of mind for consumers. In aggregate, these secondary channels contributed to IOI by reinforcing audience investment and extending the revenue life cycle. Data-driven insights guided creative adjustment before and after release. Post-screening surveys and social monitoring inform minor marketing recalibrations, including changes to trailer emphasis, tagline wording, and regional ad targeting. This responsiveness illustrates the feedback loop between audience analytics and promotional strategy, a hallmark of mid-budget, high-stakes franchise management. Every marketing decision was assessed not by instinct alone, but by measurable consumer response, integrating finance, technology, and psychology in real time. Audience analytics also shaped release timing within domestic markets. Box office forecasting incorporated predictive modeling, historical ticketing data, and demographic engagement metrics. Theater allocation, showtime scheduling, and advertising placement were dynamically adjusted to optimize attendance and revenue per screen. This level of precision demonstrates how modern marketing for mid-budget action films integrates operational logistics with cognitive understanding of audience behavior, creating a seamless system of financial and emotional optimization. Social media monitoring played a dual role: campaign amplification and sentiment analysis. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube comments were analyzed to identify trends in excitement, confusion, or criticism. Positive sentiment clusters informed where to increase ad spend. Negative sentiment informed message adjustment or clarification. This integration of digital feedback into marketing operations allowed the team to respond proactively rather than reactively, reducing wasted spend and ensuring maximum return on every communication channel. Marketing also capitalized on narrative continuity and brand equity. Neeson's established character, Brian Mills, functioned as a high-value asset. Campaign materials leveraged familiar story beats, the father's unique skill set, familial stakes, and iconic phone call tension, creating a psychological anchor for returning audiences. This consistency reduced creative risk in messaging and allowed marketing dollars to focus on amplifying rather than explaining, increasing cost efficiency and reinforcing audience loyalty. Ultimately, the marketing strategy and audience analytics of *Taken2* reflect a sophisticated synthesis of creativity, finance, and technology. Campaign decisions were guided by predictive data, behavioral insight, and strategic timing. The integrated approach ensured that every dollar spent on promotion not only increased awareness but strengthened the emotional contract with viewers, aligning audience anticipation with production and distribution strategy. *Taken2* demonstrates that in modern franchise cinema, marketing is as much a science as it is an art, with measurable outcomes that directly influence financial performance and long-term brand equity. *Taken2* entered a cinematic ecosystem already primed by the first film's success. Critics and audiences approached the sequel with a mixture of expectation and skepticism. Could the story replicate the tension, ingenuity, and emotional clarity of Brian Mills' initial Odyssey? The critical reception reflected this duality. While some reviewers critiqued the sequel's reliance on formulaic action beats, many praised Neeson's commanding presence and the franchise's ability to maintain narrative momentum. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film achieved approximately *50% approval from critics, but audience scores were significantly higher, reflecting a divergence between critical assessment and mass market response. This illustrates the first principle of franchise economics. Brand loyalty and emotional engagement often outweigh critical consensus in determining profitability. Box office metrics confirm this principle. Domestically, *Taken2* grossed around $139 million, approximate with an international whole of $237 million, approximate bringing the worldwide total to roughly $376 million, approximate ***. These figures position the film as a mid-budget action success, achieving significant IOI on its estimated $45 million production budget, approximate ***. The economics of franchise sequels are distinct. Marketing and production investments are amplified by pre-existing audience familiarity, resulting in high-margin returns even in the absence of universal critical acclaim. In essence, the brand equity of Brian Mills and the Taken universe mitigates narrative risk. Awards and formal recognition, while limited for mainstream action films, nonetheless play a role in cultural and financial perception. Taken 2 did not dominate major award circuits, but it received nominations in categories that celebrate action choreography, stunt, and sound design. These acknowledgments, though niche, contribute to the long-tail valuation of the intellectual property, signaling competence in production quality and reinforcing studio credibility for investors and distributors. Even peripheral awards can elevate a film's syndication and merchandising potential over time. The franchise's longevity in home media and streaming platforms provides additional insight into legacy forecasting. Blu-ray and DVD sales, combined with digital rentals and streaming licensing agreements, extend the revenue lifecycle far beyond the theatrical window. By 2015, Taken 2 had recouped a significant portion of investment through these channels alone, highlighting the cumulative nature of franchise valuation. Future earnings from syndication, streaming, and package deals ensure that the film remains a tangible asset, contributing ongoing cash flow and reinforcing the brand's market presence. Critical discourse also emphasizes the psychological and narrative formula that underpins franchise success. Analysts note that the father-as-action hero archetype resonates universally, creating predictable emotional triggers. This formula reduces financial and narrative risk. Audiences understand the stakes, empathize with the protagonist, and remain engaged without requiring extensive exposition. Such cognitive consistency not only improves immediate box office performance, but ensures long-term audience retention across multiple sequels, sustaining franchise value. Legacy forecasting requires evaluating both tangible and intangible assets. Tangible assets include the film's global box office, home media sales, and merchandising footprint. Intangible assets encompass brand recognition, cultural impact, and the character's mythos within popular imagination. Bryan Mills has become synonymous with measured, lethal action, a living trademark for EuropaCorp. This intellectual property can be leveraged in future projects, including sequels, spin-offs, and cross-media adaptations, enhancing the film's lifetime valuation. Syndication and streaming potential are particularly significant in the 2010s and beyond. Action films with universal themes, low dialogue dependence, and recognizable protagonists perform well on global streaming platforms. Taken 2 benefits from these characteristics, ensuring that new audiences can access the film without prior exposure while maintaining the franchise's established fan base. Streaming analytics further inform future production decisions, creating a feedback loop where audience behavior directly influences the development and marketing of subsequent sequels. Merchandise and licensing contribute indirectly to cultural and financial legacy. Limited edition Blu-rays, branded action figures, and even tactical-style accessories extend audience engagement, embedding the franchise within broader consumer culture. These ancillary revenue streams, though smaller than box office returns, reinforce brand presence and offer low-risk revenue opportunities. Over time, they amplify cumulative ROI, demonstrating how a film's material footprint extends beyond the screen into consumer consciousness. Critical analysis also intersects with financial strategy in the long-term valuation of the IP. While mixed reviews may temper media prestige, they rarely impede revenue in established action franchises. Investor confidence often correlates more strongly with historical performance, demographic analysis, and projected lifetime earnings than with critical sentiment. In this regard, Taken 2 demonstrates a principle frequently overlooked in Hollywood finance. Profitability is both a function of narrative consistency and the disciplined capitalization of existing brand equity. The franchise's cultural footprint, while difficult to quantify, is measurable through audience recall, references in media, and adaptation potential. Bryan Mills' persona, calm, efficient, morally focused, and lethal, has entered collective cinematic consciousness. This brand imprint ensures continued relevance in public discourse, media references, and potential licensing opportunities. Such cultural capital is invaluable. It enhances streaming algorithms, secures distributor interest, and reinforces marketing efficiency for sequels, spin-offs, or cross-media content. Forecasting the legacy of Taken 2 requires integrating economic modeling, audience psychology, and narrative analysis. Studios calculate projected earnings using historical revenue patterns, franchise multiplier effects, and secondary channel profitability. They also evaluate intangible factors, fan loyalty, social media engagement, and potential for long-tail monetization. The model predicts not just immediate returns, but ongoing brand appreciation, guiding future investment decisions with empirical insight. Ultimately, *2* exemplifies a balanced interplay between critical reception, audience response, and financial performance. While reviews were mixed, box office success, home media longevity, and international appeal underscore the franchise's robust market position. Awards and technical acknowledgments enhance credibility, even if they do not drive primary revenue. The film's legacy is both economic and cultural, reflecting a franchise formula that combines emotional clarity, narrative consistency, and strategic management of intellectual property. *2* demonstrates how mid-budget sequels can achieve long-term profitability and cultural resonance through disciplined attention to both tangible and intangible assets. As we reflect on *2*, it becomes clear that the film is far more than an adrenaline-fueled action sequel. It is a masterclass in harmonizing creative vision, technological innovation, and financial strategy. From Olivier Megaton's kinetic direction to Roman Le Corbusiers' immersive cinematography, the film demonstrates how deliberate artistic choices intersect with engineering precision to deliver narrative impact. Every chase, fight, and intimate moment was planned with consideration for not only emotional resonance but also production feasibility, safety, and cost efficiency. The result is a film that entertains, thrills, and, upon closer examination, teaches us about the sophisticated infrastructure of modern cinema. The financial discipline behind the film is particularly illuminating. With an estimated $45 million approximate production budget, EuropaCorp and 20th Century Fox crafted a project that balanced risk and reward. Strategic planning of locations, efficient scheduling, and tightly controlled stunts allowed the film to deliver high-impact action without exceeding budgetary limits. Marketing campaigns were calibrated using predictive analytics, AOB testing, and demographic segmentation, ensuring every dollar spent contributed directly to audience engagement and ROI. Even in moments of narrative improvisation, the underlying framework was firmly grounded in economic reasoning. Technological mastery is equally prominent. The use of *AI Alexa cameras, advanced lens systems, and mobile lighting rigs created a visual language that immersed viewers in Istanbul's layered cityscape. Handheld sequences, depth of field manipulation, and precise color grading worked in tandem to heighten suspense and emotional clarity. Sound design and musical scoring further enhanced the cinematic experience, with dynamic range control, Foley layering, and strategic silence translating spatial and emotional cues into visceral engagement. Hey, technology is not ornamental. It is a structural component of storytelling, amplifying human performance and narrative stakes. From a psychological perspective, the film engages viewers on multiple levels. Brian Mills' tactical cognition, strategic risk assessment, and emotional intelligence provide an anchor for audience empathy. The narrative employs suspense, uncertainty, and spatial awareness to manipulate tension while remaining consistent with internal logic. Characters' decision-making, moral imperatives, and adaptive problem-solving are framed in ways that resonate psychologically, reflecting a subtle integration of behavioral economics and narrative engineering. Audiences are drawn not only to spectacle but to the believable, measured human reasoning behind it. Production management and operational strategy exemplify the industrial complexity of contemporary filmmaking. Logistics, workforce allocation, scheduling, stunt coordination, and safety protocols were meticulously synchronized, ensuring that creative vision could unfold within economic constraints. Istanbul's urban complexity required layered planning, location permits, traffic management, and cultural consultation were all orchestrated to minimize disruption and maximize visual payoff. The disciplined execution of these elements demonstrates the interdependence of art, technology, and capital in creating commercially successful cinema. Historical, cultural, and scientific research informed many subtle aspects of the film. From accurate urban geography and authentic costume design to realistic combat physics and firearms handling, the production's attention to factual plausibility reinforces narrative credibility. Even minor auditory and visual cues, ambient street sounds, realistic lighting shadows, or precise weapon recoil contribute to audience immersion, subtly reinforcing the investment in both emotional and intellectual engagement. This demonstrates that high-octane entertainment need not sacrifice accuracy or thoughtful design. Marketing and audience analytics further illustrate the integration of art and commerce. Trailers, social campaigns, influencer engagement, and demographic targeting were all data-informed, creating precise emotional triggers aligned with narrative beats. The film's release strategy, timing, screen allocation, and international outreach was designed to maximize revenue while sustaining global brand presence. Audience loyalty and pre-existing franchise familiarity were leveraged to mitigate risk, ensuring that financial, artistic, and technological decisions worked synergistically to deliver both profit and satisfaction. Critical reception and legacy forecasting reveal the long-term value of disciplined integration. While reviews were mixed, the film's financial performance, home media longevity, and international appeal underscored the strength of its intellectual property. Brian Mills' character functions as both cultural touchstone and marketable asset, supporting future sequels, streaming rights, merchandising, and licensing opportunities. The film demonstrates that artistic execution, when combined with strategic technology use and operational rigor, can generate enduring economic and cultural capital. In summation, *2* exemplifies a filmic ecosystem where art, technology, and finance coexist harmoniously. Each component, direction, cinematography, editing, sound, production, logistics, marketing, feeds into a unified objective to create a high-impact cinematic experience while ensuring financial viability and long-term franchise sustainability. The film teaches that modern cinema is an intricate balance of creative risk-taking, technological investment, and economic foresight. Success emerges not from any single element, but from the orchestration of multiple, interdependent systems. If you found this deep dive meaningful, my literature-loving friends, consider liking and subscribing so we can keep decoding the business and beauty of cinema together. *2* reminds us that behind every pulse-pounding chase and suspenseful moment lies a meticulously crafted ecosystem where artistic ambition, technological innovation, and financial strategy converge to create stories that thrill, resonate, and endure.